Welcome, everybody, to Lumio Palooza 2025. I am so excited to be joining you from Dallas, Texas, and I have been watching all of you join this session minutes before it was time to go live, and I see all of you from all over the globe. But what I want to do is I want to bring up our incredible speaker for this session, the science of learning with Lumio. We had a slight change in our presenter, but I promise you that you are not going to be sad about who we have with us today. I'm going to bring up Kris Astle to the stage. And as I'm doing that, I want to remind you that Lumio Palooza is, for the next couple of days, all over the place. You're going to see some keynotes stream live on YouTube. You are going to see all of the social media hype using the hashtag Lumio Palooza. Also, make sure you're tagging anything that you're sharing, hashtag GoLumio, and follow Lumio and Smart Technologies all over the place so you aren't missing anything. Welcome to my presenter today, Kris Astle. How are you?
I am great. I am so excited to see all of the people who are joining us literally from all over the world.
Yeah, do you see any shout outs specifically from different people in the comments? Because we've been watching them. There's so many people from so many places globally.
I know. Well, I definitely have to shout out to Vanessa and John, who are fellow South Carolinians. So glad to see you guys here. And my friend Shay from Federal Way in Washington. So good to see you here as well. Just a great crowd. And our Australians who are joining us bright and early. We appreciate you.
Yes, we have. So honestly, it's incredible. I'm popping some of you on the screen just to kind of show how many people from all over the world. Kris and I were saying that typically it is our bedtime around this time of day, but there's one week out of the year, excluding Christmas, where we are willing to stay up and hang out with all of you. And it is Lumio Palooza week. Well, Kris Astle, I want you to know, if you do not know her, you probably, I guess you could chat GPT her, but she says you don't want to do that. It's probably very inaccurate. But Kris is from South Carolina and her story is fantastic. She's a former high school teacher and she has worked at Smart for over 14 years. I'm not even going to begin to try to tell you all the things that Kris does and is focused on. I'm going to let Kris tell you more about herself.
Thank you, Tisha. So yeah, I am a former high school science teacher. I taught in the US and in Switzerland. So lots of experience with lots of different students. And then I have been with Smart for a long time, working on our education strategy, which means I'm involved in a lot of exciting things like the research that we recently did with the University of Melbourne. And even though Darcy could not be here tonight, I've had the privilege of watching all of the footage of him teaching as part of that research project. So the good news for all of you who signed up to see him is I'm actually going to tell you about what happens in his classroom and then give you some concrete examples you can try at home.
That is exciting. We know this is going to be a great session. So Kris, I'm going to go backstage. I'm going to let you take over. If you want to go ahead and share your screen and get everything sorted. And those of you that are paying attention in the comments and chatting where you're from, we love for you to be in the comments. Please let us know if you have any questions as Kris is presenting. I'm going to be sharing some of those comments live, but I'm also going to star any of the comments that you have so Kris can come back and let you know about those. I will just tell you we've lost Kris for a small minute. No worries. She will be back here. What I would love to know in the chat, as you guys are chatting with me, what sessions are you really excited about for Lumio Palooza? Which sessions are really lighting a fire and helping you like be excited about it? Let me put this one comment on the stage before I bring Kris up again. So there are going to be questions all week about this. Is this session being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. Yes, you will be able to come back and watch it. And you will also get a survey link at the end of Kris's session so that you can get credit for that session. Okay, Kris, you are back with us.
Back.
Little bit of a technical difficulty. I'm going to let you try to present and screen share one more time, and we're going
All
to.
right. I am hopefully sharing my screen. Maybe.
Ivy is interested in student portfolios. I love that, Ivy. Yes, we could talk about student portfolios forever. That is a really great one. I'm just popping some of the sessions up, Kris, as you were getting started.
Yeah, that's good because we are having more technical difficulties. So everybody bear with us.
Oh,
right.
Janice. Janice is excited about escape rooms. Yes, Janice, I previewed that session earlier, and I will tell you that is one you want to sign up for 100%. Classroom management. Look at this. They are so excited, Kris, about all the sessions coming up. Okay,
There's
it's
some
time
great
for
sessions
me.
coming.
So many incredible sessions. Okay, so I'm going to go backstage for real this time, and Kris is going to present her session to you. And Kris, when you need me or if there are questions, I'll pop back in with you, okay?
All right, perfect. Will you go ahead and pop the join link in the chat for me? And if everybody can go ahead and join my class, we have a couple of interactive activities because it wouldn't be Lumio Palooza if we weren't playing in Lumio. So go ahead and join my class. I'll leave this up for just a second. So what we're really talking about tonight, I'm going to talk as you guys are joining. I see you coming in. We're going to talk a little bit about what we know based on research and science about how students learn, how we can really embrace universal design for learning, and how we can create spaces where all students, regardless of how they think and learn, are able to thrive. All right, look at it. The numbers are going crazy. I am going to close the screen, but Tisha has put the join link in the chat. So if you need to jump into my class, that will be there. And we are going to get started. So high level agenda. We're going to do a quick overview of UDL. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about explicit teaching, how we can do that in Lumio, worked examples and the gradual release of responsibility, checking for understanding, differentiation. And I'm going to do that hopefully efficiently enough that we can do some questions at the end. All right, let's get rolling. So designing with UDL in mind. I spend a lot of time thinking about UDL. I'm actually going to be presenting at UDLCon next week because one of my roles is to really understand how we create inclusive and accessible classrooms and what that looks like when we're doing ed tech implementations. So you guys probably are familiar with the UDL guidelines. So what we're looking at when we're creating activities, assessment, anything we're doing with students is that we're looking for multiple ways for students to engage with that content. So welcoming interest and identities, sustaining effort and persistence, really allowing for emotional capacity. We are designing with action and expression in mind. So options for perception, option for language and symbols, options for building knowledge. And we're also designing for different modes of representation. So different ways to interact, different ways for expression and communication, and different ways for strategy development. And when we're designing with UDL, we're really creating activities in our classroom with very minimal barriers to entry. So it's like those wheelchair ramps we see or the curb cuts on sidewalks. When we're thinking about UDL, we're making it easy for everyone. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Universal Design for Learning in Lumio, we have a great toolkit, and I will make sure we get the link to that in the chat before we're finished tonight. But there's a bunch of ready-made activities there to support you. So I just wanted to shout that out so you guys know it's there with all of the other great toolkits that our team has made. I still see lots of people joining. Amazing. All right, because we're to our first question of the evening. So I am making a bit of an assumption that you guys are using UDL. If you are not, that is absolutely fine because you can just tell us that. But I'd love for you guys to shout out on this activity how you use UDL in your lesson design or how your teachers are using UDL in their lesson design if you are in more of an administrative role. And I'm just going to let this play out for a minute to see what you guys have here. All right, we have some people who are new to UDL. I'm going to get you totally hooked on it. by the end of the session. And I'm doing another session on it on Wednesday. Choice boards, I love choice boards. Supporting students with disabilities, I love that. All right, I'm getting my group of, I've not used it. Okay, I definitely have my work cut out to get you guys all hooked. Language differentiation, immersive reader. I love immersive reader. I love SciOp. Multiple ways of showing what you know. I love that one. Small group activities, student choice, some really great stuff popping up on this board. I love it. All right, you guys are going to be mad at me if you're typing because I'm going to go to the next page. But these are some really great answers. And as we're going through, for those of you who are new to UDL, feel free to put questions in the chat, and I will do my best to get those answered. All right, explicit teaching. So one of the things that Darcy does in his classroom that is really, really beneficial. So let me backtrack. I got to watch hours and hours and hours of footage of Darcy teaching, and he's like this magical conductor. Like every student comes into his classroom and knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing and when and where they're supposed to be doing it. And he has a lot of transitions. He has students coming to the front of the room. He has students working in small groups. He has students working individually, but he's really set up his classroom in a way that everybody knows what they need to do. And they're doing it at a level that's appropriate for them. So he has a mixed grade classroom as well. I think, I may get this part wrong. I think he has year 6 and year 7. But I do know that there's 2 different grades. And so one of the things that actually really came out of the research that we did with the University of Melbourne, and one of the things that Darcy really exhibits in his classroom is very consistently and intentionally giving that explicit teaching, like explaining the knowledge and giving the examples and working the problems so the students can see it first. And so our students who process differently have different ways of being exposed to it before he launches into student work. And the thing about Lumio is there's lots of great ways to do that. So I have this fun animal cell structure lesson because I was, in fact, a biology teacher. And this is a topic that, if you've ever taught it, you know, can be really hard for students to kind of grasp because there's a lot of very technical terms and a lot of very specific functions. And you're really trying to teach about form and function, and it can be hard to do. So one of the things I like about Lumio when it comes to explicit teaching is I can really set up this page. There's not a lot here, right? I very clearly have the title of my organelle, the definition of my organelle, and then this great picture of the cell where you can see the entire cell, and then I'm able to kind of highlight what the endoplasmic reticulum looks like. So I have this, and then the great part here is you'll see I've also attached my audio to the page. So for my students who may process at different speeds or may have not been paying attention the first time I explained it, they can go back and access this as often as they need to. And then I've also used my attached sound to object down in the corner to give a little explanation of how I would describe what the endoplasmic reticulum looks like and how the students might recognize what it does in the future. Another way to do that is a great feature is I can go in, and when I actually make this a student activity page, then you guys are able to go over and access your immersive reader, and that will help students here too. And when we're thinking about universal design for learning, this is great because it will read it to my students, so they're not being removed from access by how well they read. They can also translate it. So if you've got students who are coming in who are emerging language speakers, they're able to go in and access the language on this page at a speed and in a place and in a language that works for them. And I think that that is really important. So once we've done that, so really spending the time making sure that we are giving all of the information that's needed for that concept and letting students access it in a way and in a place that works for them, then one of the things that Darcy does magically in his classroom is really working through worked examples and gradual release of responsibility. And so I'm going to keep with the self theme, and here are my examples. So one of the things that every biology teacher who has ever taught cell structures has done is gotten students to compare the organelle and its role to something in the real world. So like a city or a factory. And this is to kind of help them just connect what that organelle is doing. And so that is a hard task. And let me tell you, students really struggle when you just give it to them and say, hey, give me a real world analogy for the function of this organelle. So what I like to do here is show them how I would do it. So I've picked the organelle, I've picked the Golgi body, I'm going to list the function, and then I'm going to give the real world analogy. Now, the beauty of Lumio is it makes me really easy to set up this gradual release of responsibility. So the next thing I might do is actually have a whole class workspace. And now I might have a student come up to the board, or we might work on this all together with students who are feeling comfortable giving their answers, calling out the organelle they want, the function that they want, and the real world analogy. And then for the next organelle, I might put them in small groups. So here I can go in, I'm going to put you guys in groups for fun, but you don't have to name an organelle. So I can put my students into teams, and now they can step away from the front of room instruction. They can go into their small groups, and now they can kind of borrow prior knowledge from each other. They can bounce ideas back and forth, and they have the kind of the support of a team to do this. And one of the things that's also really interesting about this activity, and this came out in the research that we were doing, some students don't work exceptionally well in groups because they may be very sensitive to the noise or the light or the distraction. And when you put them in virtual groups like this, it's a great kind of UDL bonus because they can actually go to a place where they are comfortable working and still contribute to what their group is doing because they're in that shared digital platform. And then the last step there is giving your students their handouts. We've gone from direct instruction with the teacher, whole class activity, small group activity, and then an individual handout so the students can all kind of work through this in a staged manner so that they feel confident. And that's a really important part because we know that when we are stressed or unsure or not sure we're going to get the right answer if we're called on, it elevates some of the stress hormones in our brain, and we aren't able to really do the abstract thinking that's necessary to do an activity like this. So I really like how Lumio allows you to set that up. The next piece here are checks for understanding. And oh my gosh, there are so many fun ways to do checks for understanding in Lumio. It's one of my favorite things to do there. And so some of the examples I have. So graphic organizer, I can do a handout and I can have my students kind of tell me, what is the organelle? Give me some examples, give me some real world analogies, give me some functions, and they can work on that right there. There's also some fun ways that I can do this. This one here, I'll model this one for you guys. You can try it if you want to. So we're switching to math, but I really like this because this is a great way for students to get immediate feedback on how well they know these math facts. So they're kind of like grab their answer. And then these are really making them think a little bit, right? And I think that that is a great way to really challenge their thinking, but give them that feedback immediately. And then the other one I have here too, if you guys are trying that one, sorry, I'm going fast. This is another one I like. So thinking about like, how do we use this with some of our secondary students is I've got some equations in here and they're going to solve for X, and then they're going to see if they got them right by plugging them in. And I am not doing this correctly. I am just guessing so that I can show you what that looks like. And then if you guys are trying this on your own, that would be amazing because in a second, we're going to view your progress. And then I can check, and I amazingly got them all wrong. That was actually pretty impressive. Statistics would suggest I'd get at least one right. But then I can go in and I can see my class results, and I'm able to go in and see how everyone is doing. And I think that that's a really great way to get some feedback for students. Do we have any questions yet, Tisha? I'm like talking a lot. And
I'm so glad you asked that because we do have one question, and I told Regina that you would go over it. She wanted you to go over the team creation portion. She says, is the team creation portion of Lumio new? She loves how you did the creation of the teams.
Page. Yes. So that is actually one of my favorite features. And so what I've done let me jump into edit really quickly. All right, I'm going to end my session. Everybody, we're going to move around a little bit. And let me jump back to my library. And I'm going to go in and edit this file. So on that page, when I was setting it up, sorry, you're all getting whiplash as I drive through here. So you've got your page. And when you're setting that page up, you'll see this little magic wand up in the right-hand corner. And when you click on the magic wand, it's going to allow you to convert your page to an individual handout. So each student gets their own, and you can give them private feedback on that page. You can convert the activity to a group workspace, which is what I did to put students in groups, or you can convert the page to a whole class whiteboard. And in the whole class whiteboard, every student is participating on the same page. So I click that, and now I have my groups. So I'm going to finish editing, and I'm going to launch back into my file. And then I am going to jump back to that page because this is a really great question. And so I'm here, and if it didn't work and you don't have that, you can actually click over here on the people and you can turn it into the activity you want there. So the first thing it's going to do is ask me how many teams I would like to have. Now, because of the number of people in this session right now, it's only giving me the option of 9 because that's the only way it can really organize you. If you have a smaller class, it's going to ask, do you want 2 groups? Do you want 3 groups? Do you want 4 groups? So you click on that. It is going to put your students into teams. And the really great feature here that I like is we know that not all students can work productively together in the same group. So if I have to come and move someone, say this person on team 2, I really think they'd be a better fit on team 5. And so I can come and do a little rearranging of my teams so that you get the best groups for your class. And then once you've got the teams there, you hit start workspace and it passes that out. And then those students will see just their team members in that group with them. And I think it's a really great way to do group work. The other thing I really like about this is one of the recommendations that came out of the research we did with Melbourne that Darcy was participating in is that students sometimes, particularly some of our neurodivergent students, are really much more comfortable participating in group work when they know that their effort will be recognized. And I know because you guys are all teachers, you know the kids who will do the entire project because they are getting an A+ no matter what. But the thing that's cool about using groups here is you can see every contribution on the page and you can see which student did it. So you can talk to students very specifically about how they worked in the group and what they contributed, and you're able to give them a grade based on their own work. And so that really fits into this idea of designing so all students are comfortable and all students feel like they've got a safe place to work.
Okay, so Kris.
Yes.
That was fabulous. They have questions for you. So I've been starting the questions. Thought we'd just go through them really quickly and let you pick back up. Nicole is asking, am I able to use a lesson the next day? So she's wanting to do a lesson and do it the next day.
Yep, absolutely. You just go back in, you'll go into your sessions and you'll just grab that file and you can pick up where you left off.
And then Leslie is asking, and I think somebody in the chat has already answered, but I thought you could speak to this. I love in the chat because they're asking questions, but they're also answering each other's questions. It's really fun over there.
I love it.
I know. What activity type is the algebra equations activity? Is it in the library? We've confirmed it's in the library, but they really love that part that you showed as well.
Okay, so this honestly is, and we don't have to see everything. This is probably one of my favorite activities and the one that I use the most often for so many things, and that is the rank order activity in the kind of that activity box. So you can use rank order for everything, and I really like it. I use it for like doing an analysis of like characters and like ranking the characters based on different traits, or there's no limit to how you can use this. And I think it really gets kids thinking in a different way. And you can also make it so that it doesn't have right or wrong answers. So if you're doing an opinion question, so this one, obviously, you guys remember, I got them all wrong, which I'm still impressed with. You can set this up when you make it so there is no right or wrong answer. And so that allows you to kind of like do some polling, understand what students are thinking, how they're thinking about a topic, what they think about a character, what they think about the plot, and then have a conversation around it because it's not actually a graded activity. So lots of really great ways to use rank order.
This is so good. Okay, Janice has one last question, then we're going to let you get back in. If you do use the lesson again the next day, will the teams remain the same as the previous day? So when you're putting them in teams?
That is such a great question.
I know.
And I really wish that they would stay in the same place. So this is a two-part answer. So if you go in the next day and you don't need the students to do the work again, though, Tisha, am I wrong? Have we changed this feature yet with some of the out of class work?
No, we need to, Janice, we need to come back and confirm this for you. So I'm going to put my, let me go ahead and put my email address in here because we want to follow up with you on this.
Because we've done a lot of work on the things you can do out of class.
Yes.
And I don't think this one is there yet. So if you come back in the next day, you will be able to see all of the students' completed work.
Right.
And you will be able to see who did what. You won't be able to put them back into the same groups. You've got two options. It's just to have them have new partners and kind of like challenge their brains to think a little bit differently. Or if you wanted to, you could move them all back into the same groups, but it would start a new activity for them.
Yeah, I think it's a great feedback though, Janice. So I am putting my email address there and I've screenshot your comment so we can take that to our team. But yes, such a great question. And we are caught up, Kris, on questions now.
All right, amazing. Because I'm trying to get us out of here on time. We are almost to the end. We are going to talk about differentiation. So one of the things that Darcy does really well, so obviously he has a mixed grade classroom. And we're kind of, we do the explicit teaching, we do the gradual responsibility, and now we've got students going off to do their independent work. Not every kid is at the same place in all learning. We know that. And Lumio makes it really easy to do differentiation. And so I'm going to show you two ways that I saw Darcy do in his classroom, which I really liked. So this is a PhET activity. So I went into fractions and I'm going to click start and it's going to load and I'm going to pick the game. And I'll click on that and you'll see here that it's got levels with different levels of difficulty. And this is where you really let your students kind of self-differentiate, like let them choose the level that they think is right for them. And then your next activity in Lumio could be, was that too easy? Was it just right? Or was it too hard? And then you can encourage them to level up next time. But this is a great way to differentiate without you having to do any work, which is always kind of the challenge behind differentiation. Another thing that you can do that is really kind of fun is you can let students pick the problem sets they're going to work on. So you can link to pages in Lumio. So you can have categories. So I've got the category, how confident are you about today's learning? I've got it. Then this is your practice problem set. I mostly understand, but I have a few questions. Then this is your problem set. I'm really confused. I'm going to take you to a review. And what Darcy does in his classroom is he'll have like grade 7s go here, grade 8s go here. So however you want to split up your students based on how they're learning, you can just link them to the right page in the file and then they can go and do those problems. And I think it's such an easy way to differentiate because there's not a lot of work on your part. And you're kind of normalizing for your class that it's okay to be working at different levels, that everybody is reinforcing their learning where they are and progressing forward. So I love that. And it's just an easy way to differentiate. And that brings us to the end of my content for this evening. So trying to get us done in half an hour. Do we have more questions, Tisha? Did we cover them all?
You've covered them all. They just have really great comments. So I'm popping those on the screen. Regina is loving the new linking. Sandra is asking, what do you do to teach the students to use Lumio? They're working with K-12 students. It takes a lot of time to teach the tool before they can use it. So what do you suggest, Kris?
So, what a tough question. And what a way to put me on the spot. Good thing I have been traveling about watching a bunch of great teachers in action. One of the things that universally I have been told is that the games So all of the activities that you can do that the kids really enjoy doing the games because they're fun, they're a little bit competitive. I highly recommend Monster Quiz as an introduction to Lumio because kids know how to do multiple choice, right? So there really isn't much to learn there. You're popping up the questions, they're picking the answer. If they get it right, then their name is shooting out of their egg and they're hatching their monster faster. So that to me is like, let's meet kids where they are and do something fun. And for those of you who teach older grades, trust me, I did AP Bio and AP Physics. I had high schoolers. But what you want to do there is just meet them where they are. There is a team quiz, which doesn't have the monsters. Once you get them competing, it's kind of fun. The next thing I would add in is shout it out. So we did the shout it out earlier in the session today. I would anonymize it so that you don't know who's contributing what. And that just becomes a really safe space for students to like venture new ideas because it's not attached to their name. And then they can kind of like see what someone else is saying. And that might encourage an idea. So Monster Quiz to shout it out and then moving into the games. Once you've got them hooked, then you can start to just slowly pull in like some of the graphic organizers and some of the things that will allow them to do a little bit deeper thinking. Though, as you saw with some of the activities we did with the games tonight, you can really get into some more critical thinking. It doesn't just have to be answer, question, answer. So there's lots of ways to do that. I have found all of the kids I've worked with really do enjoy Lumio because it's a little bit different. There's lots of ways for them to access it, and that just helps get them going.
Yeah, I just want to point out, Nicole, obviously I was a tech integration specialist for a lot of years. I was in education for over 20 years and then did tech integration for 13, working with the littles and also the bigs. But Nicole has great advice here. You just start having them come to the board, right? Don't have them necessarily do it on their own devices. Just, it's like a slow burn, like little by little. I would use a tool in the class and not really even tell them, today we're going to use Lumio. I would just start using it and be like, go to the board and touch this and do this. And
that goes back, Tisha, to that idea of like worked examples and then that gradual release of responsibility. Like you do it in Lumio on the board, and then you invite the brave kid up to do it in Lumio on the board. And then soon everybody wants to do it. And then you transition them to working again in groups on their own. And you just build that.
It's so much of a scaffold, right? It really is scaffolding that. I want to answer this question. So many great comments, Kris, on your presentation. Yeah. Rebecca's asking, can students use or complete Lumio lessons when they're not sharing live? She's very new to Lumio. So Rebecca, the answer is yes, but I'm going to let Kris expand on that.
Yep. So what you can do, actually, let's look at what that looks like. So I'm going to end my session and go back to class sessions. I am still new to the class sessions menu, so I'm not using it with the proficiency that I maybe could. But so here I've got my lesson. And so start new will start a new session. I can edit the file, but I also can assign. And when I go into assign, then what I'm going to do is give a link to the session or assign it to my students in an LMS, and then they can work on it as they want to. So at the pace that works for them, in the place that works for them. And I think that's really powerful. And there were a couple of activities we started that you couldn't do when students are working on their own. Our team is working really hard to integrate those into the student pace as well, so that you'll have the same functionality across both of those.
100%. Now, Kris, I'm kind of putting you on the spot again, but can you show them how to link to another page? Leslie is asking that again. A lot of people in the session are kind of just wanting those basics. How do you link from one page in Lumio to another? Either show that or just explain it. I feel like it's pretty simple, but visually, right? We're accessible. Kris and I are all about being accessible.
We are all about being accessible. So I have been cheating and just linking the pages before I upload it into Lumio. Tisha, how do you do it?
Yeah, you can just go in and link. So I won't show you. Go practice, play along with it, Leslie. And if you have issues, you can always reach out to us. We will hop on a call with you and walk you through that step if you need. We also have the Academy. So I'm going to put a couple of links in here because I know, Kris, you had a little preview for them on something we have coming up called the Back to School Bash.
Yes, I'm putting that back up again so everybody can see that there's more fun Lumio learning to happen.
Yes.
And this one will be super fun. The product team talking about everything that's new, giving some demos. I think that is super exciting.
It's going to be fun. I'm going to be hosting. Holly and I decided we want to do a party, a back to school bash. We want to have everybody there because we have a lot of new stuff. As you can tell in the comments, a lot of new things happening. And so it's just a great time for learning. But you do have the Academy. You also have my email. I know, Kris, where can they find you if they want to connect with you after this session?
That is a good question. If they want to connect with me, probably the best way is for me to pop my email in the chat.
I can do that for you, Kris.
I'm doing it right now. I figured this out.
She figured it out. So I have put the survey link in the chat. This survey is directly tied to Kris's session for feedback, but also so you can get that certificate. We know that you all want your credit for professional development. So make sure you fill out that survey. And then Kris has put her email address there as well. So you can reach out to Kris.
Yep.
Kris Astle at smarttech.com. The survey link is in the chat as well. Copy and paste that. Fill that out. If you want to know more about the Academy, you can do that. Kris also, Kris you're on point today. I'm having to keep up with you now. We have with the ambassador link. So if you want to become an ambassador, please do so. I'm going to pop that link in the chat. There we go. Okay, so for translations, we are working. I will tell you, we are working on translations. Know that translations is top of mind. It's something that we talk about almost every day. So yes, we're working on all of those translations. Veronica, if you want to reach out to me as well, or Kris, either one of us can answer your question. We can tell you more in detail about that. I've popped my email address. What else do you have for us, Kris, in your slide deck? Anything
I've got some great resources for everybody who is newer to Lumio, maybe wants to learn more, wants to get some tips and tricks. We have so many different places that everyone can go and so many great resources.
100%. And I have so many links, but I'm not going to overwhelm you all with any more links. What we are going to do is Kris and I are going to come back on. We're going to remind you to fill out that survey for Kris's session. Explore. I put UDL links in the comments for you so that you can go through those if you're not familiar with UDL. There's so much. Get into the Lumio library and look at those templates. And again, somebody said it earlier, but little by little, you can't climb a mountain. Nope. You're never going to be able to climb the mountain.
And right? You do it. Yeah.
Little by little. Yep.
For everybody who wants to learn a little bit more about UDL, I'm doing another session on Wednesday. It's at 1:30 Eastern. Yes. And I'm really going to talk more about UDL, and then I'm going to unpack all of the recommendations that came out of the research we did with the University of Melbourne. So I hinted at some of them tonight, but we're going to unpack some more of those. So feel free to join me then if you want to learn more about UDL.
Absolutely. You definitely want to learn more, I promise. Remember, follow Lumio on all the social medias at Lumio Social. Remember, tomorrow is the big day of Lumio Palooza. We have all day sessions. We have the keynote ready for you. There's so much happening. Make sure you're screenshotting all of your sessions. You're taking selfies. You're showing us what snacks you're having as you're watching these sessions, how you're taking notes. As a neurodivergent, I'd love to see how you're all taking notes with so much information. And make sure you tag me in any of those posts. I have put my handle here by my name at Tisha Poncio. You can tag me and I will engage with you. Kris, thank you so much for an incredible session. This has been a great kickoff.
Everybody who came. I do have to say, Tisha, I've been to many Lumio Palooza, and the lineup for this one is honestly one of the best ever. So make sure you guys catch as many sessions as you can.
Absolutely. And you will get the recordings. You'll also get the surveys so that you can get the PD credit. We're so excited to spend our days with you. And I will see a lot of you bright and early tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a Polish session. Kris, probably not getting up that early, are you?
I will be up, but I'll be off on other farm-related adventures.
Yes. Okay, thank you all for joining. Again, if you need anything, reach out to Kris and I, and we will connect with you. We're just so thankful that you have spent some of your day with us, learning with us, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Bye, everyone.